You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Hi! Stop being weird.
You told me not to come in and out of the shot. And so I'm trying to use a new prop every single time. And my kids did a little arts and crafts here.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Look at that rainbow flag. They love me.
That's right. We have a rainbow poppet as well.
Oh, you guys are such good allies. Listen, I did tell you can't come in and out, but I also told you I was going to restructure this whole show because usually December is always my slowest month of the year, every single month. And then December was our busiest month of the year this past year. So I'm still working on that.
Yeah, as a business show, a little bit of an anomaly is people feel like there's an economic slowdown or things on a horizon. A lot of companies for veterans put their gas on the pedal in marketing because they've seen what happened in 2008, 9, and 10, and when things come back, how important it is. So I think people in the marketing world have never been busier. But also when we had Will Fox on from Bank of Blue Valley, when we were interviewing our guests, they seem to be busier than ever. And so even though not a lot of things are coming out of the ground, unless you're Burns McDonnell and you're building for the biggest institutions in the world, people are still moving and shaking. So there's a lot of activity, and some of the panelists can comment on that as well of why there is so much action. It's a very unpredictable economy. But did you get highlights in your hair a long time ago? Because
stop talking about my hair.
It looks great, but I feel like you had your hair up last show, so I feel like that wasn't fair that you said I'd seen you. I've
had him for a while. Listen, I haven't asked. I never ask our audience for something, but I haven't asked. Okay, this is what I need. I feel like between you and I, we know everybody in Kansas City, but this is what I need, and I don't think either one of us knows someone that does this. So if someone knows someone that does this, please put it in the comments. Also, tell us if you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, but I need some help. So I shared this with you, but I'm headed to Phoenix for the big weekend, right?
Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl and the golf tournament, the PGA Tour. And I have the world's worst. My style is a hoodie and stretch pants. I've made that my
when you're working
style. So I need some sort of like stylist. I don't know any stylists. So if you guys know stylists that are here in Kansas City, can you please put it in the comments? Because I'd love to meet them, and then maybe we'll have them on the show too. But I need some sort of stylist to take me shopping. Okay, I'm super excited about our panel today, and I'm really excited because our show is booked through the end of April. We usually only open it up for a month, but we had so many people ready to come on this year that we're booked through April. So we've got some really awesome shows coming up. So I think we should probably start to bring everybody in because nobody's here to see us.
These guests are really smart. They signed up last year.
Yeah, that's been my favorite joke the past 2 weeks. I thought I had to give it up this week, but I'm like, I haven't seen you since last year. And then the week before, I was like, see you next year. Good job. I like your dad jokes. Look, Delvon says, hi, gang. Looking forward to a great one. He's probably real busy. He does a lot of the stuff with the Chiefs. So he's probably real busy right now. All right, here we go. You ready? I'm going to let you still do your cheesy music because I haven't restructured anything like I was going to.
Johnson County White Frat Guy. Here we go.
Here we go. Best song ever. All right, we're going to go ladies first. And then we'll bring them in by how they got here. Timeliness. Ready? Here we go. We've got Miss Megan. We got Jeff. We've got Michael. Last but not least, we have Paul. All right. Hi, look, I don't know who this is, but they said we're the best. And that's the kind of energy I'm accepting in 2023. So thank you and fix your privacy settings. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. We're getting a little bit of feedback, so I'm going to work on that. But let's start with you, Megan. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Hi, I'm Megan Baker. I'm Director of Development at Heartstrings Community Foundation. I am a native Kansas City girl, so born and raised in Overland Park, fortunate to be fourth generation through St. Teresa's. And at the Heartstrings Community Foundation, we find employment opportunities for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities and have for over 20 years.
So as a history fan, to segue into business, what is the oldest high school in Kansas City that's continuously open? And what is something that we would recognize that your organization does throughout the city or the country?
Wow. Well, St. Teresa's is the oldest same-sex high school on this side of the Mississippi. And what is something that we're recognized for? I find it interesting that the average person stays at a job a little over 4 years, and our employees with intellectual disabilities stay 14.1 years on average. So we do a great job of finding unique employment opportunities within the local business community that fit their needs.
So who are some of your favorite clients that you work with? Alpha Point has been on the show in the past. And so who are some of your favorite companies that your organization works with in Kansas City, and why do you love them?
You'll be surprised to know that 2 of our clients are Bank of Blue Valley and Burns McDonnell. Are you shocked?
No, that's amazing. I mean, that's all.
Good answer.
And New York Life was our very first goodie delivery company. So the number one way we employ our adults with disabilities is through goodie delivery. Our adults hand package treats, and then we contract with companies throughout the greater Kansas City area and go out and sell those treats. So depending on who your goodie delivery team is, you might buy one, or they might try and upsell you for just a $50 cash donation.
I like it.
It's a lot of fun.
That is incredible.
Yes.
And speaking of Bank Blue Valley, this is actually Will Fox. I went and looked. So hi, Will, over at Bank Blue Valley.
Perfect.
Awesome.
He heard
Yeah,
us
so
talking about
lots
him.
of ways to get involved with Heartstrings Community Foundation. We have several events. In fact, our Heartstrings in Bloom is coming up April 22nd, where we're going to recognize heroes with Heartstrings, those who have been involved with us, some former Chiefs players you might know. It's going to be great.
I bet Delvin, he says it's busy season. I bet he knows your Chiefs players.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited to learn more about it. I actually looked it up when you booked the show, and that's the best part about the show. Like, I feel like I usually know a lot of stuff in Kansas City, and I hadn't heard of y'all. So, and we have a lot of friends that go to St. Teresa's, a lot of our theater friends. So
for sure. Well, locally founded, and all our leadership are women. So it's a unique organization.
That is amazing. All right, Jeff, who are you? What do you do? And how did you get to Kansas City?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Jeff Johnson. I'm an associate professor of marketing at University of Missouri, Kansas City. What I do is I teach personal selling and marketing strategy, and I write and read about sales and marketing and management. What brought me to Kansas City is I came here about a decade ago. I finished up my program at the University of Nebraska, so I am a diehard Husker fan, unfortunately, recently, but diehard Husker fan, and came down to Kansas City for the job here for an assistant marketing professor role. Came down for the job and have been here since and absolutely love it. I'm a KC convert now. I love Kansas City, and it's been a great role here at the university, but also love the city.
So Jeff, you got to dive into the weeds that you get into. I don't know if anyone in Kansas City gets more into the weeds of the study of sales than you do. So kind of give the audience a little taste of how granular you get, or some of your favorite studies that you've conducted.
And can I add something to his question? Just because I'm in the marketing space. And can you also define what you define sales versus marketing? Because I think that's always interesting, because everyone has a different definition.
Yeah, absolutely. The difference for me on that is the method of conduit. So if you have for sales, for example, interpersonal, and that's normally via our face-to-face mechanism, but now, of course, with a lot of virtual sales, but having a direct contact with an individual as marketing would be broader if I had to kind of separate them into the modalities of how I would do that. But Scott, to your question, as far as what I do, yeah, I look at a lot of sales context and different topics that are germane to salespeople. One of them that would be highly relevant to this show here is I'm doing a study right now about glitches that occur in virtual communication and how that affects buyers. So if I go and then start talking again, if you ask people, would you evaluate a salesperson as less credible or less smart, less able to do their job? A lot of people would say no, it was just an issue with the computer, but we've experimentally manipulated it to a glitch condition and no glitch condition. What we find is if there's a glitch, people will actually rate the salesperson lower. And so it's kind of a call to salespeople to be very cognizant of, should we go forth with virtual or face-to-face, but there might be some hidden costs to virtual, even though virtual is a great modality for sales interactions.
Okay. I'm going to push back on this because I have a question. I'm getting a little feedback. I'm not going to push back, but I have a question on this. But you can get so many more virtual meetings in. So do you think it comes out in the wash?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the differential would be then for what's the magnitude of the meeting. So if this is a fairly routine meeting or maybe a low opportunity or low volume type of deal, no problem. Virtual is going to get you a lot better reach. But for maybe something that's a $50 million deal with a brand new customer or something along that lines, the virtual, there are these kind of hidden costs of virtual that maybe might push some salespeople to do face-to-face interaction in those contexts versus others.
That 50 million you should get on your plane.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm with you on that, right? That 50 million you should just have the plane on standby.
You bet.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was a salesperson who started a marketing company because I learned social media very early on. And it's really incredible. Okay, I want to know if you know this number because I do a lot of speaking and I saw one study one time that I can't find. So I just keep quoting it. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, is this even really the number anymore? I used to work for sales for Pella Windows back in the day. And I did that whole, I call it the dude sales training that they send you to for 3 weeks, right? And Scott would have fit in so good. And so back then they said it was 7 to 12 times to get to the yes or no. You had a 7 to 12 contacts. And then I saw a study right before COVID. So take that for what it's worth, because I feel like we have so much more coming to us now, that said that number starts at 26 now, and it's infinite because there's so much coming to us. Do you know what those numbers are?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to come with just an average because it really does depend on the context of the sale. We investigate in some of the companies I speak with about sales are sales that have a horizon over 3 to 5 years in the sales process. So they have, literally hundreds of contact points in that versus maybe a lower magnitude type of sale could be something that could be from initiation to consummation within 2 or 3 sales calls. So I think it's a really contextual, it'd be very hard to maybe give prescriptive guidance on an overall average just because it does vary so drastically depending on the context of the sale.
All right, I'm going to keep saying 26.
26.
And then Jeff, if people want to find you to go speak at their organization, where do they find you and how often do you speak?
Sure. Yeah. So I speak, most of the speaking I do is mostly on the academic side. So I'll do conference presentations on the research that I'm conducting. And some of that research is for organizations. So I deal with companies that have an issue. Something that they want to do is lever their salespeople's performance, increase their marketing performance of their organization. I conduct research for those companies, and then we'll present that to the companies as well as at academic conferences.
Yeah, with the next 2 guests that are coming up that Aaron will introduce, I'm curious because they both do $1 million to $50 million deals. That's not what they take home
on their airplane,
but they
on their airplane.
But it is interesting though to get their take as well on the virtual and in person, because I think it's very educational for the audience.
I feel like, Jeff, I could ask you 7 million questions, so I'm going to move on. But I am like so geeked out about your space; it's not even funny. Okay, Michael, who are you? How'd you get to Kansas City? And I got so geeked out. What do you do? How'd you get to Kansas City? And who are you? Tell us all about you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm looking for those $50 million deals. So if you know those other, feel free to send them over. Scott knows for sure. But
and I want to be on that airplane when you go to them.
That's right. The private jet. So I've been in the industry for 20 years. I'm Michael Weiss. I'm what's called a human capital management consultant, which is good because I think like 98% of people have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
Right? Shaking your head, right? Well, human capital management is managing human capital, which are people, right? So anything that you do on a day-to-day basis to manage people, the majority of that is technology in the consulting realm, and that includes recruiting, finding the right people, electronic onboarding, payroll, HR, time and attendance, learning management, right? So technology to help employ your people. So that's what I do, and I love it because I deal with all different size organizations, mostly mid-market to large organizations in Kansas City and all across the country, and have done it for a long time and get to deal with nice people, nonprofit, professional, all different industries. I got here because, long story short, right, from Illinois originally, ended up at a private school in Oregon and finished up the conversation of high school with a consultant who's from Chicago. And I looked at different schools like becoming a duck in Eugene or Miami of Ohio or different schools in the Midwest. I knew I didn't want to go to Illinois where my family was, right? But be close. And she said, well, why don't you look at KU? I said, well, never been there, never been to Kansas. So I applied, I got in, and I went without even looking. And so part of that kind of taking I know it was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking. I think it's part of it because the parents said, I'm not going to pay for the East Coast or the West Coast. So that threw that out. So coming back to the Midwest, but it worked out. It was amazing, tremendous. We lived in Chicago for a couple of years and then ended up coming back to Kansas City because like many other people, I followed a girl. She said, I'm going back home to Kansas City. You either come with me or stay here. And that was the end of the story. Now we're married with 2 kids. So that's how it works.
So Michael, the interesting thing is I also never toured the University of Kansas because it was the only school I got into. So just went up the street. I never toured it.
But you lived close enough. I feel like he didn't even live in the state. He hadn't been to the
correct.
state.
Yeah. Michael's way cool. That's very fair. Aaron, thank you for pointing that out. That is true. Michael, the thing that I love the most about you is a lot that how Aaron and I really like each other is your work ethic and your, how accountable and on top of it you are over the years, and you've been successful in your career. For the listeners out there that have been with the company a long time, how do you stay motivated and always on top of wanting to do well? Like what is your secret sauce?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of these conversations. First of all, thank you. That's absolutely nice of you to say that and appreciate it. I just have this intrinsic motivation to work hard, and I have an extremely high sense of urgency. And I told my manager, who's now in sales with me, and then Ryan is my mentee on the call here as well, listening in, that's something you can't teach. You have people with a high sense of urgency and people that you don't. And it's just, my mantra has always been, why wait to get something done if you can get it done now, right? So it's that, whatever that is, a project or business or meeting people or calling somebody, whatever, get it done now because it's going to get on the list of things that you haven't done. It'll get longer and longer and further away on the list, so you'll forget it. If it's important, it needs to get done, work on it and get it finished now. And I love that kind of Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy kind of eat that frog, do it today, get it finished, especially the hardest things on the list need to be first. And I think that's helped with motivation and being successful long term.
One question before Aaron takes it. Are you more motivated by fear or success?
Oh, success, 100%. I've gotten no's and I've gotten non-successful and I've had, you stumble, and it's just a lot more fun to be successful and to know kind of that intrinsic motivation and to bring people along with you and help people as you go to do that. So I think that's a good mantra for life in general.
We function different. I find it really funny. You said you do not funny, but interesting. I told you I love psychology, but I actually have learned it works best for me to get all the easiest stuff done on the list, because then you have a sense of accomplishment that will motivate me, just me, to get doing that harder stuff. So I find it interesting you do that hard thing first and then do the other stuff. We're very opposite, Michael.
Yeah, I like both. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. No, I do not like the hard stuff. That's great for you. I really like that easy stuff first. I feel much better as a person. All right, Paul, who are you? What do you do? And how did you get to Kansas City?
I'm Paul Fogel. I'm much more motivated by fear. I'm kidding. I grew up in Kansas City. I'm a native Kansas Citian. I am a 5th generation Kansas Citian. So my kids are 6th, which is awesome. And I went to Shawnee Mission East, go Lancers. And I went to a tiny little liberal arts college you probably haven't heard of called Arizona State University. And my GPA, golf handicap, and blood alcohol level had all met on the chart. My folks had seen enough and pulled the bat chute. I spent a year in the penalty box, also known as JCCC, and finished at KU. I honestly learned more. I learned more at JCCC than I did at KU or ASU combined. So who knew? Anyway, I was a newspaper infographic artist at KU, which is back when they had these things called newspapers, which is, they don't have those anymore. And I followed a girl to Michigan after we graduated, which was just ridiculous. But I was in love and I was following a girl, and my dad flew up to Michigan to visit us. And he said, will you come down and work for my commercial real estate company? And I said, yes, grabbed the girl, got married. And it was the ultimate 50s story where we get married, go on our honeymoon, come home, and start my first day of work. So that was 27 years ago, 3 kids ago. I do have, Jeff, I've got a Husker in my family. My daughter's a freshman at Nebraska, so she's excited. I am a real estate broker. No different from any other broker you have heard of, except I don't do houses and I don't do office space and I don't do retail space. I do warehouse buildings, industrial space. And warehouse buildings are all grouped together in Kansas City in industrial parks, which I work for the Karbank family, Karbank, which is a very old philanthropic family here in Kansas City. We've got a whole bunch of buildings around, and my job is to keep those buildings leased. And I've been doing it 28 years, and I love my job, genuinely. I come home and my wife says, how's your day? I'm like, I love my job. I can't believe it. I never have to travel ever. I work banker's hours. It's, other than 2008, 9, and 10, which wasn't any fun, motivated entirely by fear, it's been great. So that's what I do.
Michael Mack said, Paul knows everyone, and then he spelled it out for us. I'll mess that up. So go ahead, Scott.
Well, now how do I follow Michael Mackey? Everyone loves Michael. So one thing that's so interesting is we have so many people that are experts. And I feel like in your world, negotiation is I feel like you just have to have a decade of experience to get good at it. So do you ever have people that ask you that are younger in terms of negotiations or how you deal? Because I feel like every day it's the different personality that you're working with for a different project. How do you manage negotiating in the different personalities?
You're right. I do have, I like to, I don't want to say mentor, but I like to help the younger brokers in the industry, because I wish somebody had done that for me when I was 25 and didn't know anything. But yeah, you're right. Each transaction I do is different. I represent buyers and sellers, landlords and tenants, and the buildings are all different. The locations are different. The needs are different. The businesses are all different. And sometimes I forget that, but it definitely takes the ability to listen and sympathize with people that are facing different challenges with their business. Sometimes their building is choking their business. Sometimes they're hell-bent on some course of action which is wrong, and sometimes the right answer is right in front of them and they don't want to acknowledge it. And that's something that I've had to deal with and learn how to adapt to different situations all the time.
Well, here's the deal. My friend's been trying to find warehouse space, so I just texted her and said, did you ever find warehouse space? She said, no, nobody can help me. And I said, I found the guy.
I'll help.
I'll do an email intro. That's what we hope to get from this show, right?
Right there. That's synergy right there.
Right there.
Beautiful.
Scott, you look like you were going to say something.
So dealing with the different personalities, you have a lot of people that own or are making a significant purchase. And so like, it's one of those, like, you have to, whatever's thrown at you, you have to take. And so over the years, how have you learned to kind of manage the ups and downs of meetings? Because I feel like sometimes I killed it and it doesn't go anywhere. And sometimes you feel like you failed and then it is a home run. So how do you manage the roller coaster of meetings, of the good and bad news?
Well, that's a great question. I manage it by quantity over quality. So if I have 10 meetings in a day and 5 of them are great and they lead to nothing and 5 of them suck, but they lead to something, hey, I'm good. Or if a couple of them go sideways, but others, if you have enough lines in the water, it's likely that something good is going to happen and you're going to at least go home without feeling like you wasted your whole day.
Right. All right. Well, listen, we're getting a lot of comments over here. If you are watching but you haven't commented, let us know if you watch on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. a lot of people get business over here in the comments. So I love the networking that happens over here. What we're going to do now is we're going to pull up our Burns and McDonnell question of the day. And as soon as we're done, Megan, you start answering. Here we go.
Hi, my name's Eric Heidenreich. I'm an engineering recruiter with Burns and McDonnell, looking for the best talent every day. How do you want to be described at your retirement party?
First of all, as a fundraiser, I plan parties for a living. So I want it to be big. I hope I get to attend. And I want to be remembered as somebody who connected people and made a difference and brought joy.
Yeah, Megan, it sounds like you're talking about a former member of your board, Tom Tabman, that we both know. I have been to your facility. And so if you want to speak a little bit about the events that you do, that you plan, that the audience may want to learn about.
Absolutely. Well, one thing to know is that every month we do a community coffee, which is a great opportunity for networking. And you can see we're remodeling our building, which is amazing. And then we have an event coming up April 22nd, which is our Heartstrings in Bloom. That's our big gala of the year. We're going to do pickleball on June 24th, and we're going to play golf at Top Golf on October 5th. So there's literally something for everybody.
Awesome. Where do they go find that information?
Go to Heartstrings CF, so like Heartstrings Community Foundation.org, or you can email me directly at mbaker@heartstringscf.org.
Awesome. All right, Jeff Johnson, how do you want to be remembered at your retirement party?
Yeah, I think my ideal retirement party, the thing that matters to me most in my job would be making a positive impact for my students. And so for my ideal retirement party, it'd be 40 years of students ranging in a spectrum that said, here's something you did or a contribution you made, or maybe I chose sales or I chose marketing because of your class, something like that. That's the real deliverable for me. We do research, so I spend a lot of my time writing papers, super, super boring. And to me, that doesn't really move the needle. It's something that's a part of my job and I enjoy it. But the part that I would be really excited about in the retirement would be to see impact on students.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Did you say, when you said it earlier, did you say 40 years of students?
Yeah, I'm projecting a long career path here.
Yeah, you look
yet,
very young.
Eventually 40 years, yeah.
I was like, he's got this down to a science. Imagine that. Imagine that. All right, Michael, how do you want to be remembered at your retirement party?
It's a phenomenal question. I want to be perceived as someone who thought about others, gave back, and had others at top of mind as well throughout his life. I think it's really important, especially a lot of the events that have happened here in the last couple of weeks, and the NFL and people seeing how you give back to others is just really important. So I love seeing organizations like Heartstrings, and giving back has been really important. 2 to 3 times a year, which obviously is not enough. Our organization does Pay It Forward event where we all get together and give back and donate to charities. We did Operation Breakthrough last in December. So just being perceived and obviously giving back to others and thinking about, others' feelings throughout conversations is really important to me.
I like that. All right, Paul, how about you?
Well, it would be bonus if I was healthy and vibrant at my retirement party. That would be bonus.
Good point.
But I would really like to be thought of as loyal to the family that I work for, that I provided decades and decades of loyal service and got the job done and didn't make that many mistakes, and was somebody that served their needs, but also built a lot of relationships that I can pass on to the next generation.
Love that. You guys all have good answers.
Aaron, what about you? What do you want to be remembered for at your retirement party?
I am not on the panel today, Scott. I don't know. Just being a nice person, a good mom. How about you?
Yeah, you are a superstar mom. The connecting people and shotgunning seltzer beers.
Oh, okay. So Megan, when you're planning his party, have lots of seltzer there.
I'll get a sponsor.
I've done them.
Matt Moylan's here. He says, hey, friends, Happy New Year. I'm over here on LinkedIn. Matt, we haven't seen you since last year. And Ryan says he loves it, Megan. He has a 10-year-old son with severe cerebral palsy, looking to learn more about Heartstrings. Ryan, my neighbor's son is about 9. So I wonder if you guys know, that seems to be a very small community. So I'm sure that you guys probably know each other. Amazing. All right. Well, look, we're halfway done with the show. So now we're going to get into the good stuff. Are you guys ready for this? Here we go. All right, Megan. We are in still the beginning of January. I can't believe it's already January 10th, but we're still here at the beginning of January. What are your goals, both personally and professionally, to accomplish this year?
Well, personally, I'd like to win the Australian Open in women's singles tennis. So that's starting in about a week. I guess I better get on it. But professionally, I'm excited that we're looking to grow and serve more people, which means that we're trying to bring on more team leaders. We typically have 1 team leader to every 3 employees with disabilities. So there's so much opportunity at Heartstrings, and we will have the rest of our building renovated and ready to do new things up there. We do a lot of artwork here that we sell at our store, Saks on Santa Fe in downtown Overland Park. It's an upscale resale boutique, so lots of opportunity to new things happening.
So Megan, another thing is maybe not your retirement party and maybe not for 2023, but I feel like in the not-for-profit world, there's always a 3, 4, or 5-year goal of like certain metrics. So in 3 to 5 years, what's a goal that you have for your organization?
We definitely want to be able to serve more individuals, and we want to be present in more companies, specifically doing goodie delivery, having people present at our Heartstrings in Bloom gala and at our other fundraising events. That's the big overarching goal, is to grow and expand Heartstrings and the work that we do. So like Ryan's son would be able to join.
Another random thing to think about, since we're about to segue to Jeff on the sales side, have you ever had a top seller that just was the best at your organization? Or I know you have many all-stars, but was there an all-star that just crushed it on sales?
For our goodie delivery?
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, that's one of the most fun parts about coming to our community coffees, because we celebrate the employees' success during Good News Tuesday. So we'll give shout outs. In fact, when you come, be ready, because it's 2 claps and a woo. That's how we celebrate. I guess it's also called 2 claps and a Ric Flair. It will celebrate our employees' accomplishments. And then at the end of that, they get to talk about what they're excited about. Maybe they're going to a Chiefs game. Maybe somebody's having a baby. We have someone engaged. Lots of fun, cool things. I
like it. 2 claps
so
and
come
woo.
to community coffee.
Well, you should do that here, Scott. 2 claps and a woo.
Yeah.
I like that.
You got to dive deeper into Ric Flair, Aaron. It may not be on brand.
That's not on brand for me.
The frat guy music that I enjoy is part of that. It's maybe not good.
I often say to Scott, that's not on our brand. And he's like, oh, it's not.
Was shotgunning White Claws? Come on.
Not on our brand. No, anything with drinking is on our brand. The show is called Drinks with Leaders. That's okay.
I've just never seen anyone do that with a White Claw. So that's
it's a really humbling experience around a bunch of men, but I work with women during the day. So on occasion, that you got to relax. You shotgun a seltzer beer. You don't want to put on the weight,
Relax. I don't know if it's the most relaxing thing. Scott and I took a picture together for this page, for the LinkedIn page, over the holidays, and the person taking the picture said, did you guys want to put your drinks down? And we're like, we did not want to do that. It's on brand for us. So all right, Jeff, what is both your personal and professional goals for 2023?
Yeah, you've given me a new personal goal, and that is I will shotgun a White Claw at some point this year. That is going on my list for sure.
Goes down good.
Yeah, I can't wait. But for the organizational goals, one of the things we're really focusing on here at Bloch is to grow enrollment. We've had a $17 million infrastructure investment to our building. If you've ever seen the building, it's a really cool old mansion, but it was an old mansion. So we had to do a lot of updates. And so organizationally, we're really hoping to utilize that space and grow enrollment. For me personally, I'm hoping to publish 2 papers this year. I have one paper I've been working on, if you believe it, for 5 years on buying center dissenters. And when you have a buying center member that's going against the grain of the rest of their members, and it's finally getting close to that point where I think it's going to get published. So that is my my major goal for the next 6 months here.
5 years.
Yeah. What was the origin and the thought process behind what motivated you to want to write the book? Or was it the constant research of like, wow, I'm really onto something?
And
Yes.
how long did you think it was going to take you?
So yeah, it takes a long time. It's really the journal process because it goes through so many iterations of revision, and you have reviewers and some love it and some hate it. And so you have to make everybody happy, and it's just a very long process. But as far as the origination of the idea, prior to going to academia, I worked for the railroad, Union Pacific Railroad, in sales. And it's something a lot of my ideas come from my experience there, where I had this situation where I was talking with a buying center and I had 3 people that were absolutely ecstatic to have me there. They were very excited about switching to rail from truck, and it was going great. And one person that absolutely hated me. Everything I said was wrong and was very negative on the sales interaction. So the genesis of the paper was really kind of looking at that situation and saying, what could I have done to handle that situation better? What are some different mechanisms I could have used to potentially get over that hurdle of that one individual without perhaps losing the 3 individuals who are already saying yes and on board in the discussion?
So I don't know if this is the same thing. So tell me to shut up if it is. But in my speaking, I do a lot of speaking, and in my speaking journey, I've learned, and I'm sure I read something somewhere, a coach told me this or something, but 20% of people are going to hate you anyways. 20% of people are going to be your super fans, loves. So you're really just trying to get that 60%. So how does that fall into your paper?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what a lot of times I interview salespeople and I get their perspectives. So 46 salespeople from different industries. And one of the key techniques they have is saying, for that 20%, for the people who are just negative, how do we, in a nice way, kind of take them out of the equation? How do we placate them? And they have different strategies of, sometimes they lever the other 3 members from the other organization and they have them address that member. Hey, Bob, I know that you really liked what we've done in the past for these products. How could you potentially answer this for Steve over here who hates the product, or whatever that might be? And so they have some pretty creative solutions as far as what are some things that can be done to maybe not still nicely take that person along in the discussion, but find a way to overcome their objection and then maybe focus more on the 3 that are excited about the sale.
Got it.
That's interesting. What about relationships? So like, like when people ask me all the time for like a referral on something, whether it's a CPA, bank, real estate, marketing, I always try to provide references, but not everyone can like everyone. Does it work that way in terms of like referring people? Because you can give references, but not all references are going to have the same experience.
Yeah, that's a great question. The context I look at is real time. So it's in where the salesperson's in the room with the 4 people. So it's 4 people with the buying center from the same organization. So it's just maybe somebody's in finance, somebody's in operations, somebody's in marketing. And one of those individuals is the one that's negative. So it's trying to get the individual from the same organization maybe to sell for you to another individual at that organization that perhaps isn't on board.
You know how you can tell Jeff's a sales guy, a sales expert, Scott?
Because he's really brilliant at it.
Well, because he's brilliant, all those things. But what the major tale is every time we ask a question, he goes, "That's a great question." He buys himself some time. He also makes us feel heard.
Sales technique, handling questions, have the repertoire. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
brilliant.
And I don't know who this is, but they're into the 20%. Yeah. And speaking, you just can't help it. Like, then they got to go to a different room.
Is it Will Fox, our boss? Because Will's
I don't
our
know.
boss.
I have to go look at a whole different
We
thing.
got
If it is Will, I really need to get his privacy fixed after this. All right, Michael. Okay, you're muted. I can't unmute you, but tell us what your personal and professional goals are for 2022.
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer that the 80-20 rule, 80% of the people actually really hate me. So I'm just trying to convince the other 20%. So that's so I think we're good there. Actually, it was a personal goal to shoot 10 White Claws with Scott and go to the Super Bowl. So I think we're good there. We can check those off there.
Super Bowl's too expensive. A kid. No, but we'll do.
Well, Aaron's going to take me, so we'll be good. And I think we have a Chiefs doc on here. So, just throwing it out there. But, I did learn a long time ago, which I love as a personal goal. You will never get something if you don't ask for it.
Yes.
I've gotten meetings, I've met people, I've gotten first class and things just by asking for it. So that's another rule in life, is you'll never get it if you don't ask for it. Personal goals, be a better father. I know my boys, there's always things that I can do to change better and to make better. My wife's been amazing, because we've had dinners where, number one, we have a grateful jar. So once a week we write things that I'm grateful for and put in the jar. And number two is we actually had a kind of a goal setting exercise with our boys about what do you want to do in 2023, personal and physical and work and everything. We wrote it down, which is really cool. So we review that.
How old are they?
Boys now are, think about it, right? They get older every day. 13 and 16, which is ridiculous. I have a kid who drives, which is insane. And
at least he'll drive. My 16-year-old won't drive. So
it just,
appreciate
right.
it.
And that my 16-year-old just started at 16 and a half to say he wants to do it. So we've been driving the last few months. When he 14 through 16 had zero interest. I think it's the internet technology COVID realm that we've been in now, but all of a sudden it'll just snap on and now he wants to drive. So I wouldn't, not too much pressure there, but, and then work related, I think things are going well. I like successfully work hard and keep pushing the way that I've been pushing, and I've been setting my goals and accomplishing those every year. I'd like to train and help more mentees like Ryan here on the call, as you've seen, kind of pushing forward and kind of teach the ways, if you will. So that's been some of the professional goals I've been working on. And read a book a month, work related or recommended book there that I think would be helpful as well.
He said, Michael's so much fun to work with, never a dull moment. Michael, we have so much in common. We do Grateful on our way to school. I have a 16-year-old not interested in driving. And then I'm also trying to read a book a month.
Oh, wow. Okay. Perfect. We'll collaborate. Big fan of audiobooks. Makes it a lot easier when you're driving.
What book was your favorite book that you read last year that made an impact on your life?
Oh, man. Scott, you got the questions. You're on it. The problem is there's been a lot of good ones.
You can go multiple, but just what sticks out to you so that you don't think too much about it. But if it's like, man, it really made an impact on me.
Okay, for business purposes, I'll start. There's been tons of good personal books that I like, whether, as Jeff said, sales or not. But for business purposes, the 12-Week Year has been an extremely productive book. So we had this amazing executive team owner, Scott Rudy. You should look him up on LinkedIn if you ever want to connect. There's tons of top-notch individuals, but he's A+. And he used to push these books throughout the organization. And it talks about, how do you know how well you're doing, or how do you know how well your people are doing if you're not evaluating and talking to them more often? So, the big picture is performance reviews. Everybody's like, let's do an annual performance review. Well, why not do it on a quarterly basis? So you talk to your people more, you know your people more, you set new goals every quarter. And that's been, it's a really good book. We kind of ran through that pretty fast. So that's one of the top professional books that I liked.
12-Week Year. I want to read that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool,
Yep.
cool. All right. Well, what are your personal and professional goals of 2023?
Aaron, that's a really good question.
Oh, thank you.
And more than that, it's a perceptive question. So I want to compliment you again for coming up with such a great question, so I can think about it a little longer to come up with some answer. The real answer for 2023 is I want to be on Drinks with Friends.
Drinks with Leaders.
Done. Drinks with Leaders. Sorry. Damn it. Right
No,
when
it's because we're already friends, and that's what came out.
I blow the name of the show on the show. That's awesome.
No,
I hope you get on that show.
it's a compliment, because in the moment you subconsciously were saying Drinks with Friends. So that's very nice. So,
right. Yeah.
Jack, done.
That's such a perceptive comment. I'm just so pleased you came up with that. That's just great. No, I don't know. My goal is to move the 20% of haters that hate me down to about 18. I mean, that would be 2 notches would be about all I could hope for. Jeff, I've been a 15-year student of Sandler. Oh, he twitched. Look at him. He just twitched right when I said that, because Sandler is that's like the Cliff's Notes of sales training. Anyway, I've been doing Sandler a long time, and so you're supposed to have these detailed plans about boy, what are your goals going to be? And what are you going to be professionally? And what are your personal goals and health goals and spiritual goals and all this other stuff? And I always skip that class. I don't know. I don't have any goals. Here's the goal. I have been an empty nester now for 6 months. And it's 4 months, September, October, November, December. It's the greatest thing in the world. Being an empty nester. By the way, I own 5 cars, guys. So I got 3 children plus me and my wife. I own 20 tires, and there's always a check engine light on. There's always a problem. I mean, it's just the law of averages. It's just awful. Anyway, my goal is to enjoy my second semester of empty nest to the full. I mean, squeeze out every bit of it, whether I'm reading books or watching Yellowstone or working or traveling. My wife and I traveled a ton in the fall, and it's just going to be awesome. And I'm sure business will take care of itself. I make a lot of cold calls, even at my age. I still make a ton of cold calls. I'll keep doing that. And, one thing will lead to another. It'll be fine.
I like it. I like it. And Michael said, I hope you get on that show. It was hilarious.
I even wrote it down correctly. Drinks with leaders.
I saw it. It's so I'm dyslexic, and so I think there's a lot of what you can tell when people say something in the moment, and to Jeff's point of having that big meeting in person or getting the 3 people on the 4th, and so like you naturally just share what you're thinking, and so it's actually a very nice compliment that you gave Aaron. It's the beginning of the year, so I want to know what are your goals personally and professionally?
Hold on. First of all, I'm a branding expert. That's why I made sure you got the name right. Kat says, don't get too used to being an empty nester. They always.
They talk about kids. I've got kids that are almost out of college. Almost. I got twin boys that are almost out of college. And they see, I can't wait for them to get off the runway and get the gear up and get off the payroll. And Kat would back me up because she and I go back a long way. They're never off the payroll. They're never off the runway. They're never out of the nest. So I agree. That's probably an unrealistic goal.
I have Scott, you were about to ask me. I have the opposite goal of everybody on this thing. I'm not trying to make anyone love me. I'm actually, I would almost say, tripling down on my content this year. I'm building an in-home studio right now. And I know from the content space that the negative comments are just as good for my reach and my business as the positive comments. So I just want to get a ton of reach, and I don't care if they like or love me, because the people that do love me will end up onboarding, right? My people will connect me, but they might see me through someone that hates me. So I kind of just want to get in front of all those people is what I'm going for this year. How about you, Scott?
I got sick last year with an infection, and so it slowed me down a lot. But I was always trending towards, not doing the 7-8 meetings a day and doing go. And so I think we all read books about the process and enjoying the process, not necessarily the goal. I think John McGraw is a great speaker, talks about, we always we're at point A, but then we want to get to point B, but then we create a new point A. Right. So you just get on this cycle. And so I think my wife and I have done a good job of enjoying the process and the moment. And but again, I have no idea if it's right or wrong, but just enjoying the process. So
you're going to be happy, because last night I found this Time magazine I bought actually in 2020, at the beginning of 2020, funnily enough. And it was all about how to be happy. And it was all these studies and all these different things. And the main thing in every single one was the people that could enjoy right then and weren't planning for the next thing or regretting the past. Those are the happiest people. So you're going to be so happy.
Yeah. CBS Sunday Morning also they were talking about loneliness and, what are the requirements. I think having a tribe or a group of people that you share experiences with is important. And the one thing I thought was unique outside of family, having someone that you can call at 3 a.m. that could take you to the hospital or could take you to the airport. If you have one of those, a lot of people on this panel have many, but if you have one of those, that's also another key to happiness. So I thought that was unique.
I'm going to let you do something here in a second that I hate doing, but I'm going to let you do it because we have 10 minutes left. We got through everything really fast. So I'm going to let you do your favorite thing. It's my least favorite thing. I didn't even prep you guys because I try not to hit this part of the show. But what I did want to say to your conversation, I want to thank you, because I don't say this, and I'm not the nicest friend probably ever to Scott, but Scott is my 3 o'clock person, and you would never know that, but I get a daily text from Scott just checking in to see how I'm doing mentally and how I feel. And when I had my injury this year, he was one of the first people to show up. So I do appreciate you being that person for me. Okay, now you can do your stupid icebreaker question.
And you with me when I was sick. So hey, look at us.
Look at us,
Look
besties.
at that. Yeah. So Megan, I'm going to dovetail then, and then we're
2 minutes to answer. No more than
we're going to give Michael a 2-minute question. But the only reason I'm going to ask this question, usually I like a fun icebreaker, but this one, with it being the beginning of the year, we've had a lot of time to reflect. Is there a book that you've read last year that made an impact on what you're doing today, and what was the lesson you learned?
You're asking Michael or Megan?
Megan, and then we're going to go to Jeff, then Michael.
Fundraising Revolution. It's amazing. It's Lisa Greer who took time out to figure out exactly what's going on in fundraising. So she did all the research with donors that we didn't need to do, we can't afford to do, and put it all in a book. Philanthropic Revolution. That's what it's called.
Wow, I don't think Grant Gooding wants his clients to read that, because I feel like Proof does an amazing job, which no, they do an amazing job. So they should do both. Read the book.
Don't do it on a specific level.
I know, exactly. They do a great job. Jeff, what's a book that you read last year that's impacted you personally?
Yeah, I'll hit you with a podcast versus a book, and that's the Sales Lab podcast. It's been one of the most impactful ones for me as an academic. I think sometimes I'm a little bit disconnected in my thinking of what's happening in the real world and what's happening with real salespeople. And it's a series of practitioners, so talking to salespeople at all levels, from an entry-level salesperson to a vice president of sales, and getting contact of what's happening now, and with things like such as virtual communication, different trends that are occurring in sales. And for me, it gives me a lot of benefit of making sure that I'm most relevant both in my teaching and my research of what's actually happening there in the real world.
All right, Michael, what is another book, since you've been doing more than a book a year, what is another book that you thought was impactful in your world?
Yeah, so I'm going to pivot a little bit, if I may. I said the 12-week year for business I thought was good. Any book or podcast on goal setting, I think, has been tremendous. And Jeff's podcast comment makes tons of sense, and it's truly resonated to kind of dig into some of those. And just seeing the biggest impact for me is just seeing things of how the world surrounded ourselves around helping others. Somebody like, I'll bring it up again, Damar Hamlin, right? It's not that it happened. The fact, the instance that he had a charity of $2,500 to give back to kids with needs in Philadelphia, and ended up raising over $8 million, probably more by now, right? So we need to surround ourselves around people and give back and help out any way we can, which I love, like organizations like Heartstrings, without big tragic events. Just do it, right? Having that kind of make things better in life for other people. So that's the biggest impact. And I know it's not the book question, but that's biggest for me.
You go wherever you want to with it.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
All right, Paul, what is a book that you've read that has impacted you in terms of what you want to do on the daily basis or throughout the year?
Well, I'm impressed and humbled that you guys are all into these self-help books that are all apropos to your businesses, and I'm very kind of jealous, frankly, because I hate self-help. I don't like reading it. I haven't read Good to Great ever, and I know people that have memorized it. I read nonfiction junk. I'm sorry. I read a lot of Bill Bryson. I read a lot of Walter Isaacson. I read a lot of Malcolm Gladwell. Boy, there's a guilty pleasure. But I read a book in 2022 that maybe you guys read called $1 Billion Loser. And it's written by a Kansas City author, Reeves Weideman. And it's about Adam Newman and WeWork and how his meteoric rise to whatever he was, and then colossal crash back down to earth. And it was so satisfying and fantastic. And they made a Netflix series called what was the one about WeWork? Oh, We Crashed. It's called We Crashed, and it's based off this book. And it's not as good as the book, but yeah, I don't read self-help, but I read a lot of nonfiction crap. And man, if you haven't read $1 Billion Loser, it is the second least flattering depiction I've ever read in my life, behind Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs.
So, Paul, in your world, as you were watching the meteoric rise of WeWork and the co-working spaces, even though you're into the fiction side, was it something that you felt like deep down that you're like, this just can't work? The math isn't.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great question. The answer is yes. I mean, these guys were, well, without getting too far into the details, they were biting off colossal chunks of space and buildings they couldn't afford. They were losing money. They were going back to the well for more money half a dozen times, and you just knew it couldn't. And of course, then it got beyond just co-working. It got into, well, we learn and we live and we eat and we everything. And his wife, who's crazy, created this school, which was ridiculous. And they kept going thinking this was going to be a global socioeconomic revolution. And in reality, it wasn't. It was just a co-working idea. And it was a good idea, and it still is. But they tried to make it something. They tried to make it a religion, and he was the deity. And boy, that blew up in his face. It was awesome to read.
Yeah, the documentary.
Yeah, Paul can probably give a little more insight to it, but I feel like Kansas City was lucky that it wasn't too hammered by WeWork, and so it wasn't. We got lucky. So, Aaron, as we're getting ready to close out the show, I didn't know you were trying to read a book a month. What book have you read recently that you really liked?
Well, this one I read every year, and I'm just going to tell you my favorite fact in it. So the subtle art of not giving out, you know what? Wesley Hamilton introduced me to that years ago. If you don't know Wesley Hamilton's story, he was shot in random Kansas City violence, and he has made an entire national career around. I'm trying to let me get in here. Oh, there you go. Let me do my job. That's why you got to get out of my account. Okay, so I love that studio. I'll fix that. Okay, so there we go. My favorite fact in that is I'm a really bad flyer. I've got all these random stats today, Jeff. You're rubbing off on me. In that book, I learned that your chances of getting ran over and killed by a hippopotamus on the way to the airport are actually higher than actually dying on that commercial flight. And so I always tell myself that. That's why I read that book every year, because I'm such a bad flyer. And I have to remind myself that I don't even know where I would find a hippopotamus in Kansas City. How about you, Scott?
I'm just like, so I'm not a big reader of podcasts. Marketplace, because it's not political, it's just the market, and historical things. And then Jeff, what was that, the podcast you were listening to?
The Sales Lab.
I will listen to the Sales Lab. That sounds wildly entertaining. But I was reading or listening to a Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers, that I ran when I wasn't running. I ran home to my girlfriend, now wife, 8 years ago, and I asked her, "Am I dyslexic?" And she was like, I guess you are. But if it wasn't for Malcolm Gladwell, I don't think I would have figured that out. So
you do, you do talk about Malcolm Gladwell a whole lot. So, all right, well, here's the deal. We want to thank everybody for watching the show. So all of you over here that commented, please go and connect with our panel. Thank you so much, panel, for coming on, being so open, being amazing guests. I want to thank Scott for co-hosting. And of course, a huge thank you to Bank of Blue Valley.
There it is.
To Bank of Blue Valley and Burns & McDonnell for sponsoring us again in 2023. We are so excited. We have such an incredible year of shows already planned out. Q1 is planned out into Q2. So make sure you keep tuning in every Tuesday at 3:00. We will see you at the same time, same place next week. Have a wonderful week. Go enjoy that nice weather before it gets cold again.